Hello, friends! Welcome to Coding Garden with CJ. Welcome to Code Wars Code Katas. And as you can see, we have this new drop game where if you land on the target, you grow a little seedling. Look at that. Bob's on the target twice now, I think. All right. But if you're new to the show, you can visit github.com/code garden/code-katas. All of the katas I've solved in past episodes get uploaded here, and all the ones that I solved today will get uploaded there. This will be a fairly quick episode, probably only like an hour and a half, and then I'm going to do it again this evening, and it'll be a little bit longer this evening. Let's say hello to everyone. Hello, She.Mo. Hello, Alka. Hello, Julian. Hello, Aiden. Hello, Katoli. Hello, Mohammed. I'm doing good. I got some good rest last night. I did karaoke with my friends last night. That was pretty fun. And hello, Alka. Yes, if you do !drop space me, it'll drop your actual like user avatar. Thanks for the follow, Nixteen Indy. Welcome. Hello, Mattia. Welcome. Hello, Bob. Hello, Shaitan. Hello, Coding Pasta. Mohammed said, your streams really improve my coding skills. Thanks for giving such great knowledge and information. Please keep doing it. I appreciate that. I'm going to try to keep doing it. Hello, Ashish. Welcome. Yeah, it gets weird when there's too many drops. The names start overlapping. It's not the best. Veganism says, it would be great if you could do a video on recursive functions at some point. If you haven't already. They're a bit difficult to wrap my head around. I have, yeah. I did a short one, but it may not be the best. But it's something. If you go to coding.garden/videos and just search for recursion. Yeah, so I did this variety show. And there's actually a decent GitHub repo that went along with this video. Where I have some recursive examples. So if you go to that video and then you click the description and the link, there is a file that talks about recursion, has some examples, so you can check that out. But if you have more questions, I could probably do a deeper dive, because that was like a pretty quick lesson. Hello, Indian. Welcome. Hello, the 0xd. Hour and a half. No, I have to, though, because I have to work today. I always say I'm going to string shorter and then end up going a long time, but I'm on a time crunch today. Hello, El Saxo. Hello, Magic Fire. Hello, Debacum. Hello, Hest. Hello, JD Sizian. Hello, Brandon. Hello, Sergio. Good to see you too. Hello, Dope. Hello, Vladimir. Hello, Katul. Bonsoir. Yes. Un momento. Yeah, and let me know what you think. What do you think of the nice little plants growing on the target? Isn't it cool? It could use some work. So you'll notice that the animation to watch the animation grow, it comes from the right and then goes to where it should be. I was having a really hard time getting the animation to start at the center of where the plant starts to grow. So I'm open to pull requests. Very open to pull requests. Oh, and She.Mo mentioned that they might create some custom art for this, so that would be pretty awesome. Hello, Jamin, and thanks for the reminder, Brandon. Hello, Nar. Hello, Domenico. Transform origin. Yeah, I have transform origin as bottom, but also the thing has a translate x of -50%, and I think that's throwing off. Hello, Maxim. It is Wednesday, my dudes. All right, let's solve some katas, and I think what's gonna happen is we're not even gonna vote. I'm gonna pick one. We're gonna find an 8Q. I'm gonna pick it. We're gonna go by status. Progress, katas that I have not trained on. And then we're going to sort by most completed. And we're just going to pick one. We're just going to do it. Should we do a hello world? I mean, I don't think we're going to do a hello world. Make a simple function called greet that returns the most famous hello world. Not going to do that. Lost without a map. Given an array of integers, return a new array with each value doubled. Yeah, we'll do this one. It's easy. We'll talk about map. We'll do it without a map. It's going to be great. One thing I'm going to do is I'm going to turn off the drop overlay while I solve the kata, because I know it can be distracting. So get your drops in now, because the moment I start coding, I'm going to hide it. So I'm going to bring it down locally. We'll create a new file, this.js. We'll create a function, pull in some basic tests. Pun with array. Yeah. So yeah, we're gonna talk about what this thing does. Yeah, Katul, I'm gonna hide all of it. I'm going to when I start coding, you're not gonna see it anymore because I know that it is very distracting. Um, so yeah, given an array of integers, return a new array with each value doubled. So basically, you have an array. It has the values 1, 2, 3. And you're trying to create a new array with 2, 4, and 6. So basically, you need to do something with each value in the array, and that's what we're about to do, and that is the best use case for map. All right, so we're going to wait for these to drop, and then we're going to hide the overlay. It'll actually keep happening in the background. Oh, great drop, She-Dot. 79. Domenico with the 96. Look at that, the biggest seedling of them all. Okay, I'm going to hide it now. There we go. Okay. Let's catch up on the chat and then try to concentrate. Yeah, so we hid the leaderboard. Can you be lost with a map? Maybe if it's the wrong map. I think so if you don't know how to read a map. But this kind of map is a different kind of map. Okay, yeah, Ricky, we'll save that question for later because we gotta solve some katas. Don't do it. Yeah, I have to. Oh, a setting for the users? It's a part of the stream video itself, so that would be kind of hard to do. What's up, Goat? Welcome. Nara says, knowing the basics of programming can start solving problems in Code Wars. It's true. Turning on the hacks. Yes, Ashwin, it's gone now. Okay, so here's what we need to do. So, and we can see it here. We have this array 1, 2, 3, and we need to return the array 2, 4, 6. So let's start Quokka. So this is a little tool that will actually run the code inside of my editor. And we can see that right now, my function returns undefined. Which is very true because my function isn't returning anything. So we're going to solve it the most basic of ways. We're going to solve it with the for loop, and then we're going to solve it with the for each, and then we will show you how all of those same things can be done with a map. Good morning, ATD. Welcome. Okay, so let's do it. So basically, we need a place to store the doubled values. So this is going to be a brand new array. And we're going to be putting values into that brand new array as we iterate over the existing array. And let's call this array. And really, we could call it numbers, because that's what it is. It's an array of numbers. So what we need to do is iterate over the array of numbers. And then each value in that array, we need to double the current value and add to the doubled values array. So we're going to iterate each one. We're going to multiply times 2. We take that result. We put it in this array that we've created here. And then after we're done with all that, we return the doubled array. Cool. So let's code it. A place to store the doubled values. I'm just going to say doubled. And that starts off as an empty array. Because basically we're going to build it up as we iterate. And then we need to iterate over the array of numbers. So this will be a for loop. And we're going to go from I... while I is less than numbers.length. So we're going to iterate over that whole numbers array, increment I every time. Each value in that array, we can call it number. Right now we have it called element. Let's call it number. And so we have it. So basically we're iterating. We have each value, and now we need to double it. So let's say doubled number. And that's going to be equal to number times 2, right? We take each value in there, we multiply it times 2. Now we have a doubled number. Now we need to take that doubled number and put it into the doubled array. So we'll say doubled.push doubled number. Easy enough. So now this array is gradually getting built up with doubled numbers. And lastly, we will return the doubled array. Like so. And I think we've done it. 2, 4, 6, 8, 2, 2, 2, 8, 4, 4, 4, 4, 4. Beautiful. We've done it. And so this is the kind of problem that you solve. Actually, I'll leave those comments there. But this is the kind of problem you solve with the built-in map higher order method. So let's see this same thing solved, but we'll use a for each instead. It's like the next step up. Once you're comfortable with for loops and you can do this with a for loop and it all makes sense, then you are ready to move on to for each. Which is very similar, but it deals with functions and passing in functions, and that can be a little weird if you're new to programming. So We're going to take this same thing and we're going to use for each instead. So what we'll do, instead of the for loop, we'll say numbers.for each, and then for each takes in a function that will give you the argument will be each value inside of the array. So let's call this number. So basically we have this function here. It's going to get called on every value in the array, and every value in the array we're going to call number. So what we'll do is we'll take the existing code that we have inside of the for loop, cut it, put it right there. And we didn't have to cut this because for each is kind of doing that for us, right? It's giving us this number variable, which is some value inside of the array. And then at that point, we're done. So we've converted a for loop to a for each. Very good. And the thing to kind of wrap your mind around right here is that we are passing it a function. We're passing it a function that under the hood, it's going to call for every value inside of the array. So yeah. And ATD is mentioning, yeah, we could use a different type of for loop. Let's actually do that. So right now I used a regular for loop with an iterator variable, but there are other for loops built into JavaScript as well. So ATD is mentioning the for of loop. So we could use that. And the cool thing about for of is instead of giving you an index, you can actually get access to each value. So it'll be very similar to the for loop here. But instead of having to create this iterator variable, we can say for const number of numbers. And then we can get rid of that. And it should work in exactly the same way. There you go. Let's catch up. Yep, so we got the for loop. Thank you, Kruski. Yep. Thanks for the sub, Anuj. Hello, Durkaral, welcome. Yeah, Kruski, thank you. What if the user enters a string? I'm not gonna go that far, but we are gonna do probably like one or two more after this. Thanks for the follow, Shirley Dev, welcome. Yeah, Bob is asking why const in the loop. So we don't have to, right? I like to do it because it makes your code a little bit more readable. Technically, we could just do this. If we wanted to double the number, we could just put that there. Then we don't have to create the const. We also don't have to create this const, right? We could just put this directly in there, and it's going to work exactly the same way. But just as a beginner, it can help to put things in variables to better understand all of the things that are happening, because you can get caught up in the syntax of like a multiplication sign of brackets and stuff like that. So this for each is the same way of doing that. For of, we can see, is a little bit simpler than a for loop because we don't have to define our iterator variable and we automatically get that value. So that's pretty sweet. We could use for in, but it's almost like doing a regular for loop, because for in will give you the indices of each value instead. So yeah, if we did for in, we're going to get a very different result. So we see 024, 02468. That's because when we use in, this is actually I, or this is the index. And then we'd have to go and say number equals numbers at I. So the difference between for of and for of will give you the actual values in an array. For in is just going to give you the keys, which are the indices of the array. Cool. Yep. So you can use either const or let, but in this case, I'm not reassigning I, and in this case, I'm not reassigning number, so we just use a const. Thanks for the sub, 40NK. Yes, but why use const? Because I'm not reassigning it. Yeah, that's another thing. So in the latest and greatest JavaScript, you have this thing let and const. In the first one where I solved it with the for loop, we use let because we're modifying I, right? On each iteration, we increment I and we add 1 to it. So you need let if you're going to change the value. Whereas this, we're not modifying. We're creating a new variable, and then we're creating another variable. And both of those we don't modify, so we use const. We have this const array, and that can be a little bit confusing, but what const means is that you cannot reassign the value. So we're never reassigning doubled. We technically are changing it by pushing into it, but we're never reassigning it. We're never saying doubled equals some new array. Yeah. For each also gives indices. Yeah, that's a great point. Let's talk about that. So let me actually move this one down. So you can use it for each, but if you do need access to the indices, they're there for you. So the first parameter to your function that you pass into for each is the value itself, but the second parameter is I. And so in your for each, if you needed to use I, you could pass that in. And you also get a third parameter, which is the array itself. So if for some reason you didn't want to access the array using numbers, the for each function will give that to you as well. Cool. Hello, Lynn. Sorry you didn't get the notification. We're solving some katas. Yep, and Krusky is mentioning using map itself. So that's really the next step, right? So you solve it with a basic for loop. You understand everything that's going on. That's great. Then maybe you could use a for of or a for in. It's a little bit nicer. Then you move on to the for each. And this is also a little bit nicer. There's a little bit less going on. You do have to understand that this is a function. We're passing a reference to the function that is then being invoked on our behalf. And now you're ready for map. So built into JavaScript arrays is this function called map, which does this very thing. So let's do this. So we have this function, maps, that takes in numbers. And ultimately, map is going to return a new array. So we can say const double equals numbers.map. And very similar to for each, we pass it a function. So let's actually just take the function that we wrote before, put it inside that. But now, instead of pushing into some array, we actually just return the value. So we just return the value that we want to show up in the resulting array. And then we can return doubled. So this is, if you've never seen it before, it's probably weird. So this gives you a function. You take in the argument, we multiply it by 2, and then we return it. So essentially, whatever is returned from this function is what's going to show up in the resulting array, right? And so we can see this still works, 2, 4, 6, etc. We can get simpler with it because basically we created a variable, created a variable and then returned it. So we could actually just put the return statement right here. You do that and works in exactly the same way. That's a little bit nicer. And I see some suggestions for going with even terser syntax, and we could do that if you wanted to. You don't have to, but you could. So the one thing we could do instead of creating this variable is just directly return number times 2, right? Do that. Same thing. and it still works. Beautiful. But we could go even further. We're in ES 2015. So an interesting thing about arrow functions is that you don't need a return statement. So you can do this, and this also means the same thing. And it still works. Yeah, look at Krusky's all over it. So we can do the same thing. And the parentheses are optional whenever you have an arrow function with only one argument. So look at that. So this is great, right? But as a beginner programmer, I wouldn't jump directly to this. I would try to understand what's happening and kind of like break it down. You should be able to solve this same problem in all of these ways, I think, before ever doing something like this. Cool. Yeah, we could make it a true one-liner if we really wanted to. Doc made a Flixel slideshow. Let's check it out. So yeah, and I'm gonna catch up on the chat down below, but let me know, do you have any other questions? Is anything I'm doing here weird? Are there other suggestions that you have? But let's check out what Doc made. So we had this suggestion whenever I did my super long live stream to tap into the Flixel API, which grabs I guess a random browser blocked autoplay. Oh, did you add that? Oh, you added music too? Oh, this is beautiful. Here, let's do this. We're gonna go to full page view. Amazing. This is superb, Doc. Yes. So if you're not familiar, Flixel is a website that has a bunch of cinemagraphs. Check it. And it's pretty sweet. And so yeah, if you click on any one of them, they're like cinemagraphs. But if you go into like the nature category, there's some like really cool ones. But what Doc did is he found their API. He's getting a random one. And then, oh, that's awesome. You got the filter between them. And like the nice music in the back. Yeah, this is beautiful. Props out to Doc. That was great. All right, let's catch up on the chat. See if I missed anything else. Cool. Yeah, we fixed that. What's up, dope? Welcome. Yes. Yeah, so if you're not familiar with the show, I've been doing this a long time. I got experience with this kind of stuff. So if you go to my YouTube channel and you check out the Code Wars Code Katas playlist, this is episode 35. Episode 35. And so typically what I like to do is solve it in multiple ways. I don't usually like to brag, but I'm actually a very good JavaScript developer. So all these things with like arrow functions and doing like one-liners and all the newer features, I know that stuff. But I like to start simpler and to help beginner programmers kind of try and understand what's going on, and also maybe newer programmers to learn the latest syntax. Cool. Thanks for the follow, Shirley. I think I said that earlier, but welcome. Let's see. Yep, so we did the map. Thanks for the follow, and TOAir. Appreciate it. Magic Fire says, but it's const reassigning every iteration. So the other thing about const is that it is block scoped. So yeah, let's look at this one. And what that means is this variable only exists inside of the curly braces. So basically, on every iteration, you have this new block scope with this new number variable. If you were to use var here, I don't know if I should go into this, but if you use var, technically that gets hoisted, and that's like if you were to say var number outside of it, and then it's getting reassigned on every iteration. But when you use const, it has block scoping, and that means it only exists inside of the curly braces. Outside of it, it doesn't exist, and that's why we can actually redefine it multiple times. But that's a great thing to point out. Yeah, that's unfortunate. A lot of people don't get notified. I think Twitch and YouTube have something against me, but it's all good. If you follow my my Twitter, or if you're on the Discord, I usually post on there. Did I see oh no, I didn't even get to take a look at the issues. So here's the other thing. If you go to my GitHub repo and go to issues, you can submit a kata for me to solve. Yeah, we'll do this one next. Yeah, because this is a 7Q. Thanks for the suggestion, Carolinda. Yeah, we're gonna do that one. But yeah, I'll catch up a little bit more. Let's see if there are anything else we should say about const. You get notifications for the chess channel. Well, that's cool. Yeah, so when Kruski says implicit return, that's what we mean right here. So with arrow functions, if you only have a single line of code, you can remove the return statement, and it's an implicit return, meaning that it will return without that return statement. So yeah, thanks for pointing that out. Make a video about deploying a React website with Node backend with proper hosting. Yes, so you can check out, a while back I did a video, coding.garden/videos, and search for 101 ways. So I did this video, 101 ways to deploy a React website. This is just the front end though. But typically the way I like to deploy React websites is separate from my backend. So the React website will be deployed to a CDN or a static file server, and then my backend will be deployed to Now or Heroku or something like that. So if you watch this video, I show a bunch of different ways to deploy a React site. And then any other video where I build a backend, you could see how I deployed it there. But I kind of want to do 101 ways to deploy a Node backend. That would be fun. Sergio says, I saw an article on Medium. A guy made some speed tests on the good old basic loop, and said the for let I has the best performance. I usually just like throw up my hands when it comes to performance benchmarking, because I've read some articles that say that using for each, where is it? Using for each right here is actually more performant than a for loop because of the optimizations that happen under the hood. But it may depend on the use case and what you're using. Yeah, and so what Kruski is mentioning is we could basically make this super hard to read. We can call this in. We can call this in. I mean, technically we can call this in because it's another scope, and we can turn in times 2. And then we could remove all the spaces. And this still works. See, still works. But if I were on a team with you and you wrote code like this, I would tell you to stop it. Because the thing about this is it takes a lot of mental load to break it down and understand what it does. Like in my head, I'm basically turning it into this so that I can better understand it. But yeah. Next thing you would be this. Does that work? I don't think that works in JavaScript. That's a good call though. But if they could maybe add it to the spec, like matrix multiplication. So we call this numbers. And actually, I'm gonna hide the result. Can anyone tell me? Let's see how far. I'm 6 minutes behind on chat. Yeah, I'm 6 minutes behind. But if you can you tell me what is going to happen here? I'm gonna hide that. We're gonna return 2 times numbers. What am I gonna get back? First person to answer gets a gold star. And I'll keep catching up on the chat. Yep, Catoli's got it. Got the easy map. Mattia's asking if YouTube processed that 15-hour monstrosity. They only kept the first 12 hours, so I need to upload the last 3 hours. You could even do it even faster by hand. That's true. Hello, Ashish. The issue with JS is there are 80 ways to do one thing, then everyone has their favorite and wrong way of doing it. Yeah, I mean, that goes with any programming language. At the same time, JavaScript is the programming language of the web. So the creators and the maintainers of the language, like the ECMAScript body, it's a hard job, right? Because JavaScript has been around for a very long time. So if you want to add new features to it and you want to make it better, you have to have backwards compatibility most of the time, or you're going to break a lot of existing websites. So that's why we have this doing it in multiple different ways, because we couldn't used to do these things, and now they were added to the language, and we couldn't just remove the old things because then it would break a bunch of websites. So it's a weird situation. But yes, that does result in a lot of opinions and a lot of different ways of doing things. Yep, I said latest and greatest, but that's because 8 out of 10 JavaScript developers aren't up to date on ES 2015, which was released 4 years ago. So I still call that latest and greatest. But yeah, and I've done a talk before on ECMAScript and how the JavaScript language changes. And basically every year they're releasing a new version. Now we are on, well, they don't use the year anymore. So ES 6 was 2015, 2016, 17, 18, 19. So 6 plus 5 is 11. ES 11. That's where we're at now. That might be wrong. Doc says there might be a surprise if you watch long enough. Okay, I'll put it on in the background at work. I haven't done anything on RxJS. Yeah. Got to play the drop game. Oh, actually, I should have enabled the. Okay, here we go. Drop game is back. Look at all those drops. One-liner arrow. We got it. Oh, the problem says don't use map. Okay. Thanks for being a pretty good job. You're welcome, Ashish. Does Const actually exist separately? It creates almost like a little closure scope, if you could think of it like that. So when you create a const inside of curly braces, that gives you block scoping, and that essentially behind the scenes, when that function executes, it has its own little scope. And if you've ever looked in the DevTools debugger, sometimes you'll see the closure scope. I believe you'll see block scope as well. And that tells you what variables are available inside of this block. I can use let instead of var, but we're using let and const in most places. CJ, if you're so good, what does curly braces plus brackets evaluate to? Let's see. So this is going to, I would think it tries to do string coercion initially. Maybe it does number coercion. So it could be that it's the number of, I don't know. My initial guess would be nan, but that's probably not right. It's probably like 1 or 2 or something like that. But let's see what it does. let's go into node. If we say curly braces plus that, we get 0. Okay. And let's see what's happening here. Basically, it's coercing both of them to a number. So if I coerce an object to a number, I get nan. If I coerce an array to a number, I get 0. Nan plus 0 is 0. Is that right? I feel like that should be not a number. Yeah, that's not right. So maybe that's not what's happening. Maybe it toStrings the first thing. So if I toString an empty object. Oh, let's do this. So if we take an object and we call toString on it, That does give us object. I'm really not quite sure what's happening there. So coercing an array to a number gives us 0, but the other thing is nan, so that's super weird. Hey, she.mo. Oh, that's so awesome. It's Coding Garden themed. That's great. Yeah, let's copy the URL. I could probably replace it right now. Let's see. Yeah, we're gonna copy that. I think, do I have... Let's see. That's how like a type of nan results in number. Yes, because not a number is a typed number. Let's open code here. And parachute. Yeah, we're gonna put the parachute right here. I guess technically I'll download it. So sick. It's clean. It's clean too. So we're gonna go in the images folder. We're gonna rename it parachute. Well, let's not do that. Parachute new, and then I'll rename the old one. Nope, this is the wrong thing. I've already been streaming 40 minutes. We got to get to this next kata. Then I gotta go. All right, let's rename this to parachute old, and we'll rename this to parachute. And then if we refresh the browser, we should have the new parachutes. Thank you, she.mo. That's so sweet. Jairan is asking, is there any benchmarking extension for JavaScript in VS Code? Not that I know of. Yeah, that looks slick. Yeah, that's sick. Let maps equals in times 2. Yeah, so that works too. Basically, instead of defining it as a function, if we define the function itself as an arrow function, then it gets even smaller. I'm 7 minutes behind chat. Yeah, it's 0. I'm curious why it's 0 though. Can you do partial application in JavaScript, like maps equals map times 2? Not with that syntax, but I mean, yeah, I don't know. Technically, you could put this in a separate function and just pass the function in. So yeah, you could do that. Nan. Maxim says nan. Maxim, you were right. Maxim, you get a gold star. Yes, it results in nan because JavaScript doesn't know how to multiply a number and an array, and so you get not a number. Hello, Ben. I am a thanks. Specific code got us Katas separately. Oh wow. Yep, Dropworks on YouTube now too. Yep. Doc says, if const is an invariant constant expression, can't the compiler always find or replace everywhere it's used, making them 0 cost? Probably. So there's probably some optimizations that happened under the hood by the fact that we use const. And maybe that's why everyone suggests that we do it. But yeah, because as an optimization, it knows that it's never going to be reassigned. So it could take that initial value and potentially replace the value anywhere it's accessed. So that way you don't have the cost of the lookup of the variable itself. What do you got, Nice LA? We're going to try to load it. JavaScript is weird, Extreme Edition. Yeah, check that out. Hello, Amato. Oh, to understand type coercion, cool. This is true. Does scrolling text work in the chat overlay? Absolutely, yeah. we've got some sanitization that's happening, but yes, you can do certain things. And thank you, Cracks. Hello, heck. Cool. Oh, thank you, Chad. Yeah, it's a little grass area, and you can grow your plants. Thanks for the follow, Adush. The font I use in the chat notification. So the body is Montserrat, and the people's names are what's it called? Fira? Something like that? Fira Pro? A tutorial on G or Go? Brain.js. Cool. Oh, there we go. Nice emotes. Okay, so we're gonna do this problem submitted by Carolinda, and then we gotta go. Hello, Socktheville. Welcome. Okay, this problem is called Find the Longest Gap. Monsterrat. I always call it Montesserrat, but I think it's Monsterrat. Monsterrat. Yeah. That's good. Okay, a binary gap with a positive number num is any sequence of consecutive zeros that is surrounded by ones at both ends in the binary representation of the number. Okay, so for example, 9 has a binary representation of 1001 and contains a binary gap length of 2 because there are 2 zeros there. Cool. 529 has a binary representation and contains 2 binary gaps. There's a 4 and then a 3. Cool. So what do we need to do? We need to return the biggest gap. Yeah, because if this has a gap of 4 and 3, we have to return the gap of 4. They give a positive number. Cool. All right. Please remind me to turn off the overlay because I don't want to forget that. Wait. Why? Wait. We're gonna solve it in C. No, I'm just kidding. I wanted the URL to change so I could get the actual name. Find the longest gap. Cool. So let's do it. We're gonna create a new file. Is it cheating to drop both from Twitch and YouTube? I was like, no. Express versus Nest, which is best? Nest uses Express under the hood. Choose Nest if you're a large corporation and you wish that JavaScript was Java. That's my suggestion. Cool. I'm gonna do this. Console.log. Cool. So basically, we need to turn the number into binary, find the longest segment of zeros, and then we're good to go. Montserrat is a place? That's good to know. Okay, I gotta turn the overlay off. Is Rick mad with the emoji drop? That was a bar? Like in a rap song? Like a diss of Nest.js? Ooh, great job, El Suxo. 22. Okay, overlay is going away. So, what we need to do is convert the number to binary, right? We're gonna take this number, which is in decimal, and we need to convert it to binary, which is gonna give us a bunch of ones and zeros. And then we need to find the longest segment. a Fire.js. No. But Nest.js uses Typescript and has a ton of additional annotations, and it basically makes JavaScript look like Java. JavaScript is not Java. No. Hello, Tree Ghost. Welcome. So convert the number to binary. And we need to find the longest segment of zeros that's surrounded by 1. So it needs to have a 1 on this side and a 1 on that side. So I think we're just gonna, the conversion to binary, we'll use a built-in way of doing that. If you look at some of my past Code Wars Katas episodes, I've actually converted a number to binary using like maths. But we're not gonna do that. We're gonna use the built-in because the real trick here is finding the sequence of zeros. So we're gonna do it manually. Let's do it manually. So we will iterate over the binary string. So convert the number to a binary string. And what we'll need to do is let's have a variable that's going to store the length of the longest segment. So a place to store the length of the longest segment. Great. So we'll initialize it to 0. But the number is already binary? It's in decimal. Is that a joke of some kind? Thanks for the follow, Valentine. Initialize to 0. So we have this number called longest segment, and we initialize it to 0. And I think we need another variable. So here's what I'm thinking. As we iterate, we're going to be keeping track of what is the current longest segment that we're in. But then we have another variable that keeps track of the overall longest segment. So we'll also have a place to store the length of the current longest segment. And that is also initialized to 0. So basically, we're going to if we're going to start counting up to a segment, then after we've reached the end of the segment, we're going to check to see if that length is greater than the longest, and if it is, we replace it, and then we do it again. So we're going to iterate over the binary string. If the current value is 0, we're going to reset this current longest segment to 0. Reset current longest segment to 0. So we reach a 1, we set current longest segment to 0, and then we say if the current value is if the current value is a 1, we're going to reset the longest segment to 0, because if it's a 1, we need to say, oh, we need to start over because we're looking for things in between ones. So if the current value is a 0, we will increment the current longest segment. So we're going to do that. So basically, let's look at an example. So in this case, where we have 1, 0, 0, 1, we come across 1, we're going to reset our current longest segment to 0. We come across 0, we increment it to 1. We see another 0, we increment it to 2. We see another 0, we increment it to 3. And then we see a 1, we reset it. But when we reset it, we should check our overall longest segment to overwrite it. So cool. We'll say if the value is 1, we'll say check if current longest segment is greater than overall longest segment. Like that. If so, update overall longest segment. Cool. That should be good there. If the current value is 0, increment the longest segment. I think that's it. And then after all of it, we will return the longest segment. All right, so convert the number to a binary string. So we can say binary string. In JavaScript, you can actually do a number.toString and pass in the radix, which is the base of the number. So if we log this binary string, and we'll start up Quokka, and actually we'll just do this very first one. So we start this up, we should see 1001. So built into JavaScript, there is a way of turning a number into binary. Cool. Once we've converted it to binary, now we can do the logics. Let's see. Place to store the length of the longest segment, initialize to 0. So here we're going to say let, and we use let here because we're going to be reassigning it. Let longest segment equals 0. Great. And then a place to store the length of the current longest segment. So let's say let current longest segment also equals 0. Good to go. So now we do the logic. So iterate over the binary string. So we're just going to iterate over the binary string variable. So we have a for loop. We'll set I equals 0, while I is less than binary string dot length. And then we can say each bit is binary string at I. And if we log the bit, we should see 0, 1, 0, 0, 1. So this bit is going to be a string value that is each of the values inside of the array. Cool. Now we do this logic. We'll say if the current value is 1, so say bit is equal to 1. I'm using double equals here, which is interesting. We can talk about type coercion in a second. So we'll say if the bit is 1, we got to do that logic, sorry. Else, if the bit's not 1, it has to be 0. So we know that for sure. Then we can just increment current longest segment. So if the bit is 0, we'll say current longest segment plus equals 1. So we're going to increment it by 1. Now comes the logic. So if the current longest segment is greater than the overall longest segment, overwrite it. So because we've reached a 1, we'll say if current longest segment is greater than overall longest segment, or what do we call it? It's just called longest segment. If it's greater than the longest segment, then we need to update the overall longest segment. So we're going to say longest segment equals current longest segment. We've updated it. And now we reset the current longest segment to 0. So we'll say current longest segment equals 0. And that should do it. Let's see what it does. We're going to return the longest segment, and we get 2. Cool. Let's try this one. We get 4. We get 1. And we get 0. We've done it. Cool. I'll catch up on the chat, and then we can talk about this double equals, what's happening there, and what's another way to potentially do that. But yeah, I do have to leave in about 10 minutes or so. So let's see if anything was said. Oh, okay. Doc was saying something about binary. Under the hood, it's binary anyways. You're right, Doc. I just started learning Flutter. It's pretty cool. Yeah, I agree. How about progressively taking the modulo 2 of the value? There's probably a mathy way to do it. Is that what we're suggesting? Like if we're converting... oh, you mean to convert it to binary? Sure, but I don't have the time right now. As she's just saying, can I use Django as my backend for a React app? Sure. You would just want your Django app to be a JSON API. So a React app would be making Axios or fetch requests to your backend to get JSON data that it can use in the UI. Technically, you could request HTML, but then that kind of defeats the purpose of React. So you can use them together. You just need Django to return JSON. Parse int with number and 2. Does that work? Let's say binary string equals parse int. Oh, well, it takes in a string, though. But if we do say number and 2, it would probably coerce it to a string. Nope, doesn't work. Mainly because the number that we are given is initially a number. It's not a string. Cool. Yeah, all hardware integers are binary. Yeah, I don't code in TypeScript. I do not recommend everyone start using it. I think it has a time. There's a time and a place for TypeScript. But yeah, it's JavaScript exists for a reason. Code katas versus hacker rank, which is better? I think they're very different. Code katas is all about just getting better and like daily practice. Hacker rank has a lot of like interview style questions and more like algorithmic like data structures kind of questions. I think they have other stuff too, but I see code katas as like something you can do on a daily basis just to practice your skills, and it's not necessarily just data structures and algorithms. It's learning language features and stuff like that. Yep. TypeScript was created by a committee of C# devs trying to make JavaScript like C# for no reason. Like, it has a time and a place. Like, it makes sense to sometimes have type checking ahead of time to prevent certain errors, but not always. Hello, Joe Mama. Welcome. Hello, Krisu. Oh, yeah, my break timer isn't working. It's not open. There we go. Now it's open. Let's take a break anyways. Here, we'll say start. Oh, and I guess I can turn the drop game back on. Well, I should have a way of turning the drop game on while I'm catching up on chat, like automatically. Split the string on 1 and find max number would be an easy one-liner. Yep, we could do it that way. But as a beginner programmer, like this is how you break it down, right? This is taking the problem and breaking it down into its most fundamental parts and pieces instead of like using built-in functions. Yeah. This is great. This is great, my ear. So this won't work with a single a gap of length 1, but basically we use a regular expression to match 0 or more, or 1 or more 1s. Actually, if you did a star here, it would be 0 or more. That might work. And then find, so map it to get the length of each one, and then the max of that is going to give us the longest length. I like it. So we're going to have this. Let's disable word wrapping. Another one from Katul. Cool. So, yeah, very similar. We're using a regular expression. So what Katul is doing is replacing any one with a space, so that way we can split it on spaces, and now we have a bunch of strings that are just zeros, and then we find the one with the longest length. Beautiful. Great job. Lynn says, "You're so awesome. Watching you solve this problem is like watching a tutorial at 1.5 playback speed." I'm talking really fast. Your beautiful mind is just beautiful. Thank you for You're welcome, Lynn. And I mean, Lynn, you can also talk about this. Like, if someone were to give you this solution, like as a beginner programmer, you wouldn't know what to do with this. Like, you could try to break it down, but oh, I think we're missing a P on the word map. But at the same time, like this, there's a lot of inherent knowledge in being able to solve a problem like that, or even like this. Whereas this breaks it down one step at a time. Not really. The only built-in thing we're doing is converting the number to binary. But that's also, you could do that by hand if you really wanted to know how that was working. Yep. If you do exclamation mark break, you'll get a link to that break timer in the chat. Yeah, Domenico is saying, I think TypeScript can be very helpful in large projects. I agree. So if it's really good for sharing code. It's like self-documenting code. If you're using VS Code, you get really good autocomplete of the functions you're trying to use and stuff like that. So I agree. Important ESLint news. Okay. Wait. I'm curious why that wasn't detected as code. Do you have this as a link? Well, maybe it's Markdown. I don't know. I can't click it, though, because this is a separate app. If you send it on Twitch, I might be able to click it. Doc says, the simplest would be testing the bits on the original number instead of converting it to a string. We could. We could find each bit and do something similar. I agree. Edwin is saying, is that parachute thing the one you created in the last stream? Yep. So this new parachute was just created by she.mo. Thank you, she.mo. So we have that, but I made updates to it. So now it's called Seedling Drop. You're dropping little seeds, and if you land on the target, you grow a little plant. Yeah. Yep. If you do exclamation mark VS Code, you'll see a link to all of my extensions and font and all that good stuff. I would not click on that. Okay. Hello, Matt. For the break timer for Windows, there's one called iLeo. You can check out iLeo. I don't use Windows, so I wouldn't know. Is the bit value of a string 1 the same as 1? Probably. All right. I think I gotta go though. So just real quick, let's talk about what's happening where I'm using that double equals, because that's coercion in JavaScript. So let's get rid of all these comments. We are seeds. Yes, you're all little seeds. little seedlings on the coding garden. Oh, that's, yeah, because if it's a string, the string 1, I think, has a different character code than the number 1. Yeah. Okay, let's talk about what's happening right here. So if I did triple equals, it's going to break because I'm looking at an individual bit. But if we log the type of a bit, it's actually a string. So when you use triple equals, this is like comparing 1 and the number 1. And what is this complaining about? Constant. Yeah, that's fine. So when you use triple equals, this is like comparing a string 1 with the number 1, and this is always going to be false because triple equals expects that the types are the same as well. And because 1 is a string and 1 is a number, that's not going to work. But if I do double equals, then it coerces the string into a number and does the comparison. And when you coerce 1 to a number, you get the number 1. Oh, hide the overlay. Yes, thank you. Sorry. So if we look at each bit, it's actually a string, and that's the same thing as doing the string is equal to 1. So the reason I did double equals there is because I know that it's going to be a string, and I want JavaScript to coerce it for me so that we can compare it. So if we do a... was someone dropping right when I did that? I'm sorry. But if we did triple equals, we would have to use the string value 1, and that would work in the same way. We can see we still get the same results. So yeah, you can do it either. In situations like this, I like to use type coercion to my advantage. Like if I know that I want to coerce the type, like if I know that I don't care if this is a number or a string, I'm going to use double equals. Doc says the bit in of a number x is if x... Oh, okay. So as an exercise, let's just do this. If we log, so yeah, let's say we want the 0th is it 0, the 0th bit. One. Okay, so that gives us the 0th bit, the 2nd bit, the 3rd bit, the 4th bit, the 5th bit, the 6th bit. I guess there is no 6th bit. Well, yeah, and then everything after that is going to be 0. That's really cool, Doc. Technically, okay, given that, we can actually solve it that way without converting it to binary first. So let's just show that, and then I gotta go. I gotta head out. So now we don't need the binary string. How do I get the total number of, like, is Doc Murdoch on Discord? I don't know, maybe. Oh, that's the wrong thing. The total number of bits is always 32? Okay. So, technically, we could just iterate from 0 to 32. And when I put 0 right here, is that the bit from the first bit on the left, or is that the first bit on the right? Please let me know. Because what I think we could do is we have for I equals 0, well, I is less than 32. This is a 32-bit integer. The bit is going to be this little bit of magic. It's the least significant bit to the most significant. In human words, left or right? Is it the left of the binary representation, or the left or the right of the binary representation? Human words, little Indian versus big Indian. Is this giving me the bit on the left-hand side or the right-hand side? What is this doing? Does that mean I have to look up to see if JavaScript is little Indian versus big Indian? Cool. Actually, it doesn't matter if we go from left to right, does it? Oh, and then we need in. So instead of 0, we will use that I value. That does it. So it actually, yeah, it doesn't matter which direction we go in. Oh, but it broke for 20. Why did it break for 20? No, and for 529. Let's see. Your left or my left? Stop messing with me. Just tell me the answer. So if we look at the bits for 529, it's 1 0 0 1 0 0 0 0 0 0 0 0 0 0. Wait. What's 529 in binary? We're missing some. Yeah, okay, so it's from right to left. So 0 is going to give us there, but then are we missing that? I have an extra 0 that I don't need. You're shifting 9 instead of, oh. There we go. That should do it. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Cool. All right. So this is the winner. Thank you, Doc. You're all just messing with me. Cool. But so this does the same thing ultimately, because this little bit of code right here actually extracts the bit at that given indice, like that specific bit of the number. I could ignore commands, yeah, in my chat. Cool. But ultimately, the rest of the code is the same, but instead of using toString to get the binary representation, we just we use this bit of magic. What do you call this, Doc? What is this? What is this doing? Which is best, Ajax or Fetch? Fetch is more modern, and it's somewhat easier to use, and it's promise based, whereas XML HTTP request is not and requires callbacks. So it really depends. I prefer Fetch because it's so easy. Bit shifting and bit testing. Cool. That's good to know. We learned something today. All right, I gotta go. We're gonna turn the drop game on right before I go. Look at all those drops. Look at all those drops. We got ourselves a little garden. Where is it? Here. Look at this little garden. It's very nice. Isn't it a good garden? Tell me it's a good garden, right? Oh, Doc. Uh, the console log extension is called, thank you, heck. It's called Quaka. Quaka. Quaka JS. But it runs your code inside of VS Code. Yeah, and that's a good point, Sergio. And so yeah, because any valid JavaScript is valid TypeScript. You could get type checking by just running this code through a TypeScript compiler. It's cool. Thank you, Lynn. It's over. Yeah, I gotta go. I gotta go to work. I'm late. The champ is here. Cool. So this is. I'm gonna stream again tonight, at around 8 p.m. GMT -7, maybe a little bit earlier, but that'll be more of like a 2.5 hour stream. I don't think we'll do a very hard one because that takes a toll on me. We'll do more like 5, 6, 4 Qs tonight. But the winner of the drops so far is Sujan with an 80.23. Great job. Great job. Yeah, I'm open to suggestions, so check it out. If you go to github.com/codinggarden/code-katas, there's an issue tracker, and you can submit a kata for me to solve right here. And I'll give it a try. So this 7Q that we just did was submitted by Carolinda. Solved in episode, what is today? 35? 30? Yeah, 35. Closed. All right, I do have to go. Great drops, everyone. I kind of want to take a screenshot of this garden that we've built. Maddie is asking, what's my code goal? What do you mean? What do you mean? Oh yeah, I'll push it to GitHub right after this. And thanks for the follow, Ferruccio. What do you mean code goal? Like, what do I like the the goal of the Code Wars katas that we submit? But okay, stick around though. We're gonna raid someone. Shh, 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 shh. Yeah, we're gonna raid somebody. Instafluff is live. Atomic J is live. Let's see who's in the science and technology category. Hello, Pavan. Don't say that out loud. Say what out loud? What did I say out loud? Oh man. And thanks for the follow. I am Solin Kimit. Welcome. Thank you, Alka. Yep. Raid Code Rush. Let's see. Oh, T Soding is there. There's Lana. There's Clark IO. CM Griffin. Instafluff. Alka votes for Instafluff. Oh, okay. Okay, Shirley Dev. That's fine. Go ahead. Go for it. Oh, let's do Code Rush. He's last time I watched, he does like this C# stuff for creating overlays for Dungeons and Dragons games, and they're really sweet. I think that's what he's working on. We're gonna raid Code Rush. So here's what you do. You go to twitch.tv/codinggarden. That's your first step. If you're watching on YouTube, this is step 1. Twitch.tv/codinggarden. And then we're going to use this raid message. We're going to use that one, and that one, and that one. So there's your raid message. Copy that. That's what we're going to use. And then we're gonna go raid. So whenever we raid, you be nice, you're friendly, you send this message, and it's gonna be a great time. Oh, Lynn with the 82, great job. Yeah, great job, Lynn. Okay, raid, Code Rushed. Alrighty, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. We're gonna let Sujan land, and we'll leave. Thanks for the follow, Ichilis. Oh, Sujan with the 80.23 at the last second. Great work. Alrighty, everyone, wherever you are in the world, have a wonderful morning, afternoon, evening, or night. And until next time, here's this.